There's something wrong in the small town of Willamette, Colorado. Flying in by helicopter, photojournalist Frank West is here to get the scoop. Taking pictures of the town, it looks like it's under siege by the living dead. Frank tells the pilot to come back for him in 3 days. That's when the military shows up, laying on the pressure for us to leave. Dropping us off at the mall, a mysterious man who is for some reason just hanging out on the roof approaches us. When we ask him what's going on, he tells us to find out. So helpful. Heading inside, we see a bunch of people trying to barricade themselves to keep the walkers from coming in. One elderly lady is panicking, looking for her dog. We come across a seemingly senile old man, and before we can ask him anything, he walks off. That's when we hear the old lady yelling. Turning around, Frank sees the small and fragile lady frantically ripping down the barricade to get her dog. Before we know it, the mall is now filled with walkers. With some maneuvering, Frank escapes to the back and meets up with some of the other survivors. One man immediately seals the door behind me, and another opens up an air duct, saying that we could use it to go in and out of the mall. And of course, Frank talks to the woman that's here. She asks to see his pictures, and he decides to see her curves. If you guys checked her out, you have to like and subscribe. Again, I love my wife. She introduces herself as Jessie and the other guy as Brad. A few moments later, Jessie tells us that Brad is in trouble and asks us to go help him. So we head into the mall, indulge in some good old zombie slaying action. You know, I actually never got to play any of the Dead Rising games, like none of them in the series before this remaster, so it's nice to actually be able to finally try it after a decade later. Brad is in the food court, having a shootout with the mysterious man from earlier that was on the roof. Carlito kills us a few times. Seriously, and the two survivors with me are just standing there and watching me. We finally shoot him enough times, but he runs off and escapes. All those bullets, and he just runs off like nothing. Brad initially tells us to F all the way off, but when Frank shows him the picture of that crazy old man from earlier, well now we have his attention. He explains that he and Jessie are with the Department of Homeland Security, and that they are looking for that old man in the picture. He just won't tell us why. Leaving the food court, we grab a bench and start swinging it around, killing the zombies with ease. How strong is Frank? Like, it's nothing for this guy. We make our way to a fountain where we see how dumb the NPCs are again. Jeff hits me like 3 or 4 times. And then in the middle of me fighting zombies, he runs up in the middle of my swinging and I accidentally bash him in the face with a weight. His wife freaks out, but she'll be alright. We also smashed another survivor's face later, but he deserved it. He hit me first. So now it's 1900 or 7 o'clock, and the zombies tend to get a little bit more aggressive due to it being nighttime. But back in the mall, we head to the location of where the old man was. His name is Dr. Barnaby, and he refuses to come with us. On our way back to the security room, we run into escaped prisoners who have hijacked a military Humvee equipped with a heavy machine gun. With their newfound freedom, they decided to go on a killing spree, and we are next on their list. Technically, we don't actually have to fight this fight. We could just run away, but I really wanted to get them. So, after dying no more than once, I get them, and I also get the heavy machine gun too. Closer to the security room in the warehouse, we're surrounded by walkers, and a wasp tries to sting us. Killing it, for some reason, dropped all the walkers around us. Reconvening with Brad and Jessie, Frank offers them a ride on the helicopter that's coming in a few days, and soon we see on the security cameras that Carlito has captured Dr. Barnaby. Heading to the mall to save the good doctor, we have another shootout with Carlito, except thanks to the heavy machine gun we got from the prisoners, Carlito is dispatched rapidly. Brad ends up getting shot, and so we have to carry the doctor back to the security office, and then sedate him. After which, Jessie sends us to get medicine for Brad, which we find at the grocery store. However, before getting into the pharmacy, this psycho makes his presence known. This guy really loves his store, and he has that woman from earlier knocked out in his killer cart. After killing the psycho, the woman wakes up, but she runs off saying something about Santa Cabeza. Frank is such a ladies' man. Bringing Brad the medicine, we tell Jessie what happens when Dr. Barnaby wakes up. He heard us talking about Santa Cabeza, and before we can get more information, Jessie closes the door on us, which leaves us to go and track down the mysterious woman. On the security cameras, we see the woman pull up on a motorbike, so of course we head on our way to go see her. Along the way, we come across a cult, and we kill a few of its members. A bunch of weirdos, that lot. But we're going to revisit that side quest later. For now, we attend to a distress call about a cop who has some girls hostage. Now, the cop is a freakishly large woman who is into some seriously kinky stuff. And the crazy thing is, she can take a lot of bullets. Seriously, she just wouldn't drop. After riddling her with a multitude of bullets, she finally dies, but back on task, Frank finds the mysterious woman at the grocery store. However, she's still not having it, so in Devil May Cry style, she tries to kill us with the motorcycle. And this dialogue was actually pretty funny. It's like she broke the fourth wall. She tells us to go stare at someone else's ass. Frank tells her that he's a reporter, and she tells Frank that you guys created the zombies, that her brother, Carlito, wants everybody to know. That's when Frank asks if he can interview Carlito, so she goes off to go ask him, but when she comes back, she tells us that Carlito didn't want to, and I don't know how or why, but he accidentally shoots his sister due to not wanting to have an interview with Frank. That doesn't make any sense. Isabella faints and we take her back to the security office. And back with Brad and Jessie, Frank tells them that her brother, Carlito, is the one who caused the zombie outbreak. When Isabella wakes up, Brad begins to interrogate her and she tells him that the Americans were conducting research in Santa Cabeza and also created a parasitic wasp that turns humans into zombies. She states that Dr. Barnaby was the head of that research. That's the old senile man that we got earlier. And right on cue, Barnaby comes thrashing into the room, attacking Jessie. Frank kicks him off and asks him to explain the situation. Dr. Barnaby, turning into a walker, says that they were trying to conduct research to mass-produce cattle because Americans eat so much meat. However, instead of that, they created zombies. And then the American government covered up the entire story by blaming Santa Cabeza for drug trade. And after the good doctor turns, Brad shoots him, and then we make plans to try to stop Carlito from executing his plans further, which turns out to be bombs. Carlito plans to use bombs to spread the zombie infection, and we need to stop him. Hey, you guys remember that cult of weirdos? Well, we find those guys at the movie theater, and we take care of their psycho leader. He ends up getting a sword to the eye. You know what, actually, I don't know if we can show you that on YouTube. Editor, can you blur that out, please? We free the captives and we take them back to safety. And after messing around the mall for a little bit more, I remember our main mission to stop Carlito. However, it's too late. Because by the time we get to the maintenance tunnel, we have basically no time left and all the bombs go off, sending the infection sky high and spreading the virus nationwide. After restarting, I got sidetracked again by a killer clown, but I took care of him and he fell on his chainsaws. Again, I'm not sure if YouTube will allow this. After driving around, running through a bunch of zombies in the tunnels, collecting bombs while Carlito tries to blow us up, we gather the bombs and are able to dispatch them before they can do their worst. Somewhere else nearby, Carlito and Brad are fighting. Carlito shoves Brad into another room, locking him with a horde of zombies. Yeah, sorry Brad, I don't think you're making it out of there. Driving back to the office, we run into those prisoners that gave me a hard time the other day, so I smash into them. I don't know how they respawned, but I sliced them up easily, took their gun, and I took their ride. Back in the security room, Frank asks Isabella if Carlito has anything else planned, and she says that they need to check his laptop to see. Continuing on, Isabella brings us to Carlito's hideout. When we do get there, Isabella starts trying to get into the— oh my god. Do they not have chairs there? Why is she bent over like that?
ダメだわ。パスワードでロックされてる。家族の名前とか思いつくことは試してみるけど。
She doesn't know the password to the laptop, and so while she's trying to figure that out, Jessie calls us to go back to the security room. Apparently, some hulk of a man has captured Carlito and is dragging him into the butcher shop. When we get to the butcher shop, this beast of a man is hanging Carlito up like he's a piece of meat. This guy's insane too, thinking we're a customer here for his meat. The butcher prepares to piece up Carlito, but obviously we can't let that happen, so we chop him up with our bullets, and we find Carlito dying. He explains that he just wanted revenge for what the Americans did to his small town. Frank just wants the password, but all Carlito gives us is his necklace to give to Isabella. When she receives it, she says, typing it into the laptop, unlocking it. Jessie calls Frank, saying that it's an emergency. The government is denying any acknowledgement of what's happening here and will be sending in the military to clean up the town and everybody in it. Rushing to the security room, this part's kind of weird because the military gets there before we do. How? How did they know where to go and how to get there, especially with the sealed door, in a faster time than it took for us to run across the mall to get to the security room? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Jessie turns into an undead and kills them. When we get there, we put an end to Jessie. And the military is now in the mall, wiping out zombies and anything that moves. We run into them, and I think it's funny how difficult it is for them to kill us, considering Frank is just a half-naked photojournalist. Surviving the night, the special forces have cleaned them all out, and it's time for Frank to leave. And we really head to the roof, just planning to leave Isabella. Initially on the roof, Frank doesn't see the pilot. It turns out he's off in the distance, waiting for Frank to show up, to see if he could actually get some of that money that Frank would have gotten with the story of a century about a zombie outbreak. However, in his greed, he missed the part where a zombie got into his helicopter and waited for him to be mid-flight before biting him, causing the helicopter to crash. A hopeless Frank falls to his knees, 1,000-yard stare, as the walkers make their way to him. And the game ends there, with the results showing up. Only it's not the end, because like an angel, Isabella swoops in to save us, but not before we get bit. Frank, now infected, is at risk of turning into a walker. Back at Carlito's hideout, how did she carry us here? Isabella comes up with a plan to concoct a drug to stop the zombification process. We go all around the mall, taking down special forces left and right. Again, Frank is just a half-naked photojournalist. After collecting all the materials, Isabella prepares to create the drug but informs us it would only be temporary, that Frank needs to keep taking the drug for the rest of his life, otherwise he will just turn into a zombie. On the laptop, Isabella and Frank discover that Carlito, through a non-profit organization, helped orphans to find homes. The thing is, he infected 50 orphans with the zombie drug and then found homes for them all across America. 50 ticking zombie time bombs waiting to go off to spread all over the US of A. The power goes out and Isabella has us get a generator for her. Luckily, there is one where the helicopter crashed. We pick it up, we put it in our pocket. I don't know how, because we're just wearing underwear and that generator is huge. But somehow we lug it all the way up back to Isabella. She makes the drug and then administers it to us. The next move is to get out of there safely. Now, Frank tells her about the cave that we saw back where we got the generator. It's filled with zombies, but apparently, Isabella also happens to know how to make a perfume that the zombies don't like, so that supposedly we're going to be able to walk through the undead unharmed. Although, it doesn't feel like that down here because the zombies still tried to kill me. After getting zombies, spinning around, smashing heads in, and even using a zombie as a weapon by spinning it around by its legs, we make our way outside to steal a Humvee. As we're trying to escape, a tank shows up. It chases us around, tries to stop us, but somehow we beat the tank. Only the tank decides to run us over, and out comes the commander of the military forces, the spearhead of the Santa Cabeza cleanup operations, and he is here to ensure that the job is thoroughly completed. Frank, being the fearless Giga Chad that he is, hops up and sucker punches him, starting our boss fight. Frank goes to town on the commander. He does some pretty cool moves. You would think that Frank knew how to fight. And eventually, he sends the guy down into a horde of zombies. Isabella, off on the side, fighting for her life against the zombies that are trying to get her, looks over to see Frank let out a scream as the game fades to black, informing us that Frank escaped, told the world the news, and the US government only took some of the blame, spinning it as the work of terrorists. And then they let the news oversaturate so that the people would just forget about it. However, Carlito's zombie orphans are still out there.